Another 280,000 Texans filed for unemployment last week. That is up from the week before. In a little more than a month now, 1.3 million people in this state have filed jobless claims. I spoke with the director of the Workforce Commission. He says they have paid out $1.7 billion in benefits. In fact, as early as next week, the agency could exhaust its entire trust fund.
Let me assure everybody, you will get a benefit. It's not going to be a reduced benefit because we're running out of money. It'll be the benefit you deserve, the benefit that you've earned.
You will keep getting your benefits. They'll find the money. Now, a lot of you haven't been able to file because password problems are requiring that you call in, but you can't get through. I have some new info that may help you out with that problem. And I've got information about some of the biggest groups of callers that the TWC says don't even need to be jamming the phone lines right now. It is all at Jason Wheeler TV, where you'll also find my interview with the TWC director. I also asked them a lot of the questions you have been asking me about unemployment benefits, and I've posted those answers on my social media channels. I'm at Jason Wheeler TV on Twitter and Facebook. If you have questions or concerns beyond those, let me know what they are right there. If you are calling in to file for unemployment, I suggest that you put them on speaker while you're doing something else, because it's going to be a while before you talk to someone. If you've tried to do this online, you may have noticed the site's going down. Well, they're working on it. But in the meantime, my suggestion is you do it really, really late at night or really early in the morning. Maybe even set your alarm for 3 a.m. The fewer people who are on there, the more your chances are of getting that application filled out without being knocked off. Many of you have been asking me when you might be able to get that extra $600 a week in federal unemployment. Well, TWC says they've just been getting clarification on the rules for that. They've been loading those rules into their computer system. And I asked for a date, and they actually gave me one. They say April 12th is their target date to have those rules loaded into their computer system. You don't have to call. You don't have to file for those federal benefits separately. Automatically, their system is going to scan everybody in it to see if they're eligible for those federal benefits, whether you've been denied or approved for state benefits. If you are eligible for the federal ones, they will let you know by mail or by email. So that's a biggie there. I'm going to keep on pressing for answers here. I know that this is very personal for a lot of you, and I will pass along everything that I know. Let's talk about the phones, though, because as we have discussed, the phone lines are an absolute mess. Many of you have been told, though, on the website that the only way you can register for benefits is by actually talking to a representative. Pre-COVID-19, TWC's record call volume in a day was less than 70,000 calls. They told me now that last week they had 2 different days where their call volume went above 3 million calls. So just for perspective there. 2 new call centers were brought online on Monday, though, and now they tell me that they are working on a 3rd additional call center. If you're one of the many languishing on the line endlessly as you try to get through to the Texas Workforce Commission by phone, maybe 7 really will be a lucky number. Starting Monday, they are opening up their call centers to 7 days a week, 7 in the morning to 7 at night. Also, if you recently tried to get unemployment but you were denied because you didn't have enough earnings in what they call the base period, you may qualify for unemployment now. Because of the way the calendar works, they had been looking at your wages for part of 2018 and part of 2019. Now they are only looking at wages from 2019. So again, if you were denied because of that base period wage thing, apply again now. Well, hopefully you've got mail. If you have exhausted your unemployment benefits, or if you're about to, you should know the Texas Workforce Commission has now started to send out emails with instructions on how you can get those extra 13 weeks of unemployment that is part of the pandemic response. Now, if TWC corresponds with you by regular mail, you should also know that they will start sending out letters about this weekend. Now, I say start here because they still don't know how long it's going to take yet for everyone to get their emails and their letters letting them know what to do next. But again, that process is now underway, and this is actually earlier than the agency had predicted. Right there, by the way, is where we broke this news before anywhere else, and right there you'll find more details about these extra 13 weeks of benefits. A common mistake a lot of people are making that's keeping them from getting their unemployment benefits is you have to do more than apply. You have to actually go back in and request your payment, and you have to do that every 2 weeks. So if you've applied and you haven't done that, log in and find the Request Payment tab in the menu and answer the questions it asks so you can actually get paid. A lot of independent contractors and gig workers like Uber and Lyft drivers who are newly eligible for benefits are getting the minimum payment right now. I have posted some simple ways that you can prove your wages to the TWC so that you can increase your benefit. You look for that at Jason Wheeler TV on Facebook and Twitter. Also, the chat bot on the Texas Workforce Commission page can now take down your info to put you in line to be contacted back, since we know that getting through by phone is such a miserable experience still. Big thanks to Paul, by the way, on Facebook, who messaged me about this new feature. More people in Texas are out of work as the state rolls back reopening because of the COVID surge. And one expert says, get ready for another wave of mass layoffs from businesses that got money from the Paycheck Protection Program. In Texas, more than 382,000 businesses got those PPP loans, and originally the loans were forgivable if the money was spent to keep workers on the payroll for 8 weeks. Well, for many, that 8 weeks is now up, and a professor who founded a New York investment bank writes that many businesses aren't at full capacity yet and may not be able to keep those employees on. Without further assistance, he predicts at least 5 to 10 million more job losses nationally. If you are an employer and you're planning multiple layoffs, you may be able to at least save your employees a lot of headaches by making a mass unemployment claim for all of them at once. And while many of you might be familiar with the Texas Workforce Commission, there is another branch that you're going to care a lot about. It's called Texas Workforce Solutions. Right now, they are holding virtual job fairs where you go to their site, you enter their virtual lobby, and you stop by virtual booths to meet real employers who are actively looking for workers right now. Now, they haven't officially announced this yet, so you're hearing it here first. June 3rd and June 4th, they are planning a huge job fair with the city of Dallas with as many as 40 employers who are hiring. If you're interested, I have more details at Jason Wheeler TV. Speaking of jobs, remember workintexas.com? For weeks, we've been hearing that there are nearly 500,000 open jobs in Texas on that site. Well, a viewer reached out to me and questioned the validity of some of those listings, saying some of them appeared to be old entries, essentially zombie postings for positions that don't exist. So I brought that concern to the Workforce Commission, and they looked into it, and they now assure me they are regularly and actively questioning employers about their listings on that site. Finally, here at WFAA, we are actively working with local employers to get current, verified job listings, and we're posting those at WFAA.com/hiring. The list is growing too, and you can add a business there. Since the pandemic began, almost 3.2 million Texans have applied for unemployment. Almost 2.4 million of those have already gotten paid, but the state is still verifying the claims of nearly 225,000 people. That can be an excruciating wait. And thousands more Texans applied for unemployment just last week. Unlike the people who filed for benefits over the last several months, most of them won't get any additional federal money since that extra $600 per week is no longer available. Congress is still debating whether to extend federal unemployment, and if so, by how much. Now, many people are unable to get unemployment because they have returned to work and they make too much money to receive help, even though their wages or their hours have been cut. A U.S. Chamber of Commerce survey just found that 29% of small businesses have adjusted employee hours or salaries. Here's another reminder to employers out there. If you're thinking of cutting your workers' hours, you can do it through the TWC's Shared Work program, and the state will actually help pay your employees lost wages. In today's article at Jason Wheeler TV, I've got more info about the program that can benefit your business and your staff. Governor Abbott has reopened more of the Texas economy for a whole list of businesses. Capacity now being expanded from 50% occupancy up to 75%. Now, the last time that happened, the Texas Workforce Commission did briefly reinstate the work search requirement for people getting unemployment. They've been saying that they will follow the governor's lead. They also, though, say that they'll give 2 weeks notice before any changes come out. I will let you know right there as soon as they do. Opening more of the economy will mean more job openings, though. Many millions of Americans on unemployment are not finding work right away and are still making continued claims at a far greater rate than before. Here in Texas, the number of consistently unemployed people has stayed stubbornly high. Another 86,821 people in Texas applied for unemployment last week. Taking the wide view, that's actually the best number we have seen since around the beginning of the pandemic. But historically, it is still very high. And keep in mind, this is just the number who filed last week. There are many more Texans who filed before that who are still out of work. Up to now, a lot of those people have been getting a state benefit plus a pandemic federal benefit. But unemployment payments here in Texas are about to be cut by more than half, because when that federal $600 per week goes away after this week, the maximum you can get in state benefits is $521 per week. Slowly recovering, Texas has now gotten back more than half of the jobs lost in the pandemic, according to number crunching done by Money Geek. And for the 5th straight week now, the number of jobless claims here just ticked down again. Still, that's more Texans who've lost work. And they're not going to get federal benefits since the additional $600 payments ended July 25th. Many Republican lawmakers opposed extending that extra $600, in part because they suspected it was discouraging people from looking for new jobs. We might be able to tell whether lots of people really do fall off unemployment now that the checks aren't being fattened by federal benefits, because the state shows us in real time how many people are getting payments. And that number is about the same as it was when the extra $600 was still being paid. But the additional money just went away about 3 weeks ago, so I'm going to keep watching that number to see if it goes down as the weeks without federal money drag on. And they may drag on. The president just replaced the federal $600 with a $300 benefit, but almost a week after that, the Texas Workforce Commission is still waiting for guidance from the Department of Labor on how to get that money from the feds to out-of-work Texans. Now, that federal $600 benefit has already expired here. More than 1.8 million Texans are going to see big cuts to their unemployment checks after their next payment request. But a bit of a reprieve. TWC has just decided to continue suspending those work search requirements, so you still don't have to look for a new job to get unemployment. That news, by the way, appeared first, again, right there. More info on all of this in that same place. We'll start with a big number, 4.3 million. That's how many claims the Texas Workforce Commission has gotten in about 4 months. They say that's equal to how many claims they would get in 6 normal years. A smaller number now, 61,940 more Texans filed for benefits just last week. Now, that's a lot of people, but just like the week before, it is a new low for unemployment filings since the pandemic began. Those who are on unemployment are no longer getting that additional $600 in federal payments each week. As Congress battles over what to do next about that, almost a third of people who are getting benefits say they won't make it through August without those extra $600 payments. And another study says that ending the federal supplement could have negative effects on the recovery, because economists say people who've stayed employed, the blue line, have been spending less. But unemployed people getting enhanced benefits, the orange line, have actually spent more during the pandemic than they did before it. They say that spending actually helped to stabilize the whole economy. 1 out of every 5 Texans who lost the $600 federal unemployment benefit when it expired last month will not get the $300 federal payments that are now available, because to get the additional federal $300 each week, you must now qualify for at least $100 in state benefits each week. I asked about that, and TWC says of the 1.7 million Texans receiving receiving benefits, almost 348,000 don't meet that threshold for the federal payments. One more key number that we're keeping up with, the percentage of COVID hospitalizations in each region of the state. Now, if those numbers trip over 15% for 7 days straight, reopenings can be rolled back in some places. You'll remember that happened in late June, and when it did, the state had to suspend its plan to start requiring people getting unemployment to do work searches. That requirement has now been waived since the beginning of the pandemic all the way to now. But they're trying again to reinstate it. The rule is set to kick back in November 1st. After that, in order to be eligible for unemployment payments each week, you'll have to start conducting 3 job searches or 3 steps to reopen your business if you're self-employed. But you can also take online classes that count as work searches. Let's talk about job searches here. A guy who specializes in making things stand out in internet search results says that if you are a professional trying to stand out in the job market, you need to be on LinkedIn.
So your LinkedIn profile needs to be your online resume, right? It needs to be updated. It needs to match what you're putting down on your resume, and it needs to be complete and look professional.
That's Chris Rogers. He also says that when you see job postings that you're interested in, pick out some key words
and start integrating them into your resume, also into your LinkedIn profile.
And don't get too artsy with your resume, because sorting programs may actually kick it out before a human ever sees it.
Don't try to go in and create an art masterpiece that you think is going to somehow stick out, because in the applicant tracking system, they may look at it and not be able to even decipher any of the information.
I've got a lot more of my interview with Chris Rogers at Jason Wheeler TV. He has some really good tips to help job seekers stay right on the money.